Listening to this podcast is cheaper than therapy, but also a shit ton less professional. Expect unfiltered opinions, safety rants, and the occasional heartfelt reminder you're not as mentally inadequate as you think. Well, probably.
Hey sinners, welcome to the shit show. This is Alan Wolford, your host of the Diary of a Bald Man. So good morning, good afternoon, or wherever the fuck you've accidentally stumbled across this bald man's ramblings. Just wanted to give you a quick update. The Blind Side of Safety is now out in paperback, not just Kindle, which means if you want my autograph, I'll happily dribble some coffee over the cover and I'll call it a limited edition. So in light of the books, the Work Comp for Safety and HR for Idiots is also live, and it's already making waves, mostly because people outside of safety and HR are picking it up. I don't know what the hell somebody outside safety and our HR would be looking at it for, but they're trainers, they're educators, for people in safety and for people of industry. And for some reason, they were compelled to do it. And so, we're getting a lot of feedback, both on LinkedIn, both on Facebook, not so much Instagram and TikTok, because I haven't really done a video on it, but go figure, everybody has different strokes because we all have different mindsets, right? Things that intrigue us. Or maybe they wanted to see if the content matched the content like we do here on the podcast. So people are coming out from behind the curtains. Now, speaking of behind the curtain, we're heading into the fall and winter season, also known as the Snot Rocket Jubilee. You know what that is? That's when your kids and your grandkids bring home every fucking germ within a 50-mile radius of the playground and generously share it with us old fuckers like me and the women. And to counter this, obviously, if you listen to the radio like I do, Pfizer's constantly got out all these commercials about, talk to your physician, talk to your nurse, talk to your doctor, blah, 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 blah. And you should. You want to stay healthy during this time, right? Because that's when the flu season and cough and snot rockets and all that. But the thing that pisses me off, and it's just short term, it's at the end of it, I'm like, okay, let's stop. Because, vaccinations and inoculations have been around for hundreds of years. But I get tired of hearing this is brought to you by Pfizer. Well, they did bring us Viagra, right? It was supposed to be a heart medication, but then it gave priapisms. But the thing is they even say in their own commercial, hey, as you get older, like Alan, look at him. He's a wrinkled mess. Your immunity breaks down. Well, that's true. And I'm not saying to ditch your meds and go full caveman with tree bark and garlic cloves. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is add the basics. If it's your immunity, get immunity boosting. Like vitamin C and zinc and echinacea. Grab a bottle of Airborne. But before you do, the disclaimer is, and I say this all the time, check with your doctor, your physician, your veterinarian, your home health care nurse. Fuck, go to your chiropractor. You'd be surprised how smart some chiropractors are. They may not pop your back right, and they may dislocate your shoulder to get your neck back in order with your ankles. I don't know. But check with somebody. Fuck, if you have to, if you're remote, if you're a long ways away, if you can't commute due to transportation or other issues, chat GPT. Some are laughing, some get pissed off. But it is a tool. Go to Google if you don't want to use ChatGPT. Put in, I am taking X medication. What type of interaction will it have with vitamin C, zinc, echinacea, grapefruit juice, lemon juice, apple cider vinegar? Things that we use to help with both our immunity and digestion. If you think about it, I love apple cider vinegar. Because you don't want to have a bad reaction and your obituary comes out, he or she died while trying to get swole and sexy at the same time. And nobody wants that written on a headstone. I might want it on an epitaph or in an obituary, but you don't want to die because you had a 4-hour erection, so it cut off the blood flow to your eyes and you couldn't read the instructions about, hey, don't take this with gummies. Don't do this with the snack pack. Don't do this with apple cider vinegar. You'll shit yourself and be fully dehydrated. And we already had enough of that. Did you know in the summertime, We lose a lot of elderly people out in their gardens, cutting grass, out there doing a variety of things because they get dehydrated. They get into a groove of what they're doing and they don't intake water. They may take a beer because beer is good for that when you're dehydrating, right? So you got all the compounds that's in beer to help give you nutrient value, some of it, but then the alcohol. It's crazy. So we're ending the summer. You got to prep your pools. You got to prep your animals. You got to prep your yard, your gardens. There's so much that we have to prepare for, right? So we're writing down lists. We're taking down memos. We're putting all these things in order. The kids are going to be coming home for the holidays. So Thanksgiving, you're going to have a bunch of fucking empty guts you're trying to fill with a half-pound turkey, 3/4-pound ham, sweet potato yams, green bean casserole, fucking green bean casserole. What is your favorite? If you were to think about it, what would you want on your menu? I absolutely love stovetop stuffing. I like stuffing. I don't know why. Maybe it's the carbs. But one of the things that my sister-in-law got my wife and I onto was taking stovetop stuffing in a jar of gravy mix. Now, I'd prefer actual gravy, but, to have this prepared, there's turkey gravy. So anyways, you get this, and then you go to the deli, or if you're on a really tight budget, go over to the sandwich meat section, right? And get you some turkey wrap. But if you go to the deli, I like to get a cut number 2 slow roast turkey or oven roast turkey, not the honey baked ham variety, but just some protein with some additional flavor. So you mix up your stovetop stuffing. Very simple, right? You boil the water, drop the fucking breadcrumbs, you add the sage, you add the spices to it. If you're like me and you like a little kick to it, add some red pepper flakes. Try and stay away from synthetic flavors. Try and use natural herbs and natural garlic and natural onion. Cut up some mushrooms, not the shrooms that you do microdosing with. It's not that kind of party. But get you some mushrooms and add it to it. Then you roll these up like a little cigar. And I said cigar, it's not a blunt. Don't lick the fucking ends and put it in the pan. People are eating this shit. Okay? So you roll them up. You set your oven. I do it for 350, okay? I'm not trying to turn this shit into charcoal. And you take that jar of gravy and you glaze over it. Now, I've seen where some people have also taken added additional seasonings, cheese and things like that. Don't do that. Let the stuff bake. You've got the turkey meat wrapped around stovetop stuffing. My favorite to actually use is the cornbread. Some people like the pork flavor because now you're getting a variety of flavors, right? You're wanting that savory. It's not sweet. This ain't, cannoli or something like that. And again, it's not a joint. Please don't lick the ends. Roll it up. If you need to, stick a toothpick in there. Just something to hold it together. But you put the gravy on, you bake it. I do mine for 15, 20 minutes. Everything's pre-cooked, right? We're just warming it up. So when we plate it, and you can do green beans and potatoes. I love that. My wife's done some canning. Some people like to add a starch like corn or potatoes to it, and just go with that and stay away from the green beans. But I think the combination goes very well. So just something to think about. If you're a person like me and you like Thanksgiving or Christmas dinners, it's very simple. You come home, again, take a few minutes to make stovetop stuffing, roll it like a cigar in your turkey meat, and it's best with turkey. Does not do well with sliced ham, but you can try it. If you really like the pork proteins, go with that. The turkey is just a great option. And again, it goes with the holiday season. So try that. As a dessert for something like that, don't do a carb. Summer's coming up. Get you a nice key lime pie. Leave it frozen. Marie Callender's just fucking top notch. I love that shit. But I'll get a key lime pie and have, kind of like a mixture. I had the savory. Now I've got kind of a sour, kind of a sweet thing just before I go to bed. And before I go to bed, because I'm looking at health, right? I've had a stressful weekend with the holidays and everybody coming over, stuffing their guts, stealing my napkins, losing my silverware. So I'm going cheap. I'm getting plastic, right? Reduce. But then people say, well, that's going to a landfill. Okay. Separate it. Put that shit in the plastics. Don't judge me, you cocksuckers. But again, that's added stress. So how do we downgrade the stress after a time like this? Well, amino acid, L-theanine, adding magnesium glycinate. Talk to your doctor before taking it, but you will sleep. Don't do 5 shots of NyQuil. Don't do shit like that. Use amino acid, L-theanine, and magnesium glycinate. But check with your physician, primary health care. If you're doing that WebMD, look up the benefits, and some of it will tell you interactions, things of that nature. All right. Jesus Christ. I guess after that, you guys need a mental health break, right? All right. So let's take a breath. Mental health moment here. We're juggling enough cranial shit with the holidays. Family members pulling you in multiple directions without caring. Anger from headlines we can't control. Inhale and exhale. Okay, ladies and gents, sinners and saints, we'll be back after we get an audible audible memory and mental health moment by Gain Over from Ace. And we'll be back in just a moment.
This podcast is intended for mature audiences and is not considered appropriate for enjoyment in the workplace. However, as bad as this podcast is, we will take anyone we can get, including those who are hard of hearing.
All right, brothers and beauties, welcome back to the show. And if you're just joining us, again, this is Alan Wolford, the voice in front and behind the Diary of a Bald Man, as well as Growing Old at the Speed of Dark. If you've not heard it, I've restarted it recently. It's more of like a health type thing, but, it's talk about aging, mental health, how to deal with stress, how to deal with, a broke dick, otherwise known as erectile dysfunction. And if you have that, it lets you know that if you've got ED, you probably got other clogged arteries and veins throughout your body you really ought to be paying attention to. And again, with this show and with that show, check with your primary health physician, your psychic friends, your home health care nurse, LPNs, RNs, EMTs, paramedics, anybody that's going to have to recover your ass if you do something stupid. And I hate to use the word stupid. I don't want to label anyone. And what really frustrates me lately is labeling. We do it all the time. They say to label when you're doing communication and give that reaction or that response a name, But people are picking up on these books, just to give you an idea, and tell me, Alan, I don't even work in fucking safety or human resources. But I enjoyed the stories. I enjoyed the content. I enjoyed the sarcasm. And that's awesome. Because the point isn't that they're labeling, they're learning. But on the negative side, look at how we treat tragedies. Recently we've seen the headlines. 5 workers, 4 family members lost and killed on a farm in Colorado. Now, I'm not saying the name of the farm. I'm not going to, throw dirt on them because they had nothing to do with the event other than the fact they were working at that location. And then recently we had 3 workers in Alabama that were killed from hypothetically the same situation, exposure to hydrogen sulfide. And the fucking internet experts and keyboard warriors piled on. They ignored safety. They ignored training. They didn't care. That's bullshit. That's not what happened. Those men didn't charge in recklessly either in Colorado or in Alabama. They acted out of empathy, passion, and love for their coworkers. Let me say that again. They didn't purposefully ignore or go into danger because they thought, well, fuck OSHA or fuck the safety rules, fuck Alan, the safety guy. Wait a minute, I take that personally. No, I don't. They acted out of compassion, empathy, and the love of their coworkers. And that doesn't mean safety wasn't important to them. It was humanity kicked in, and it cost them their lives. We've seen this before. If you're in safety or EMS or medical profession, you've seen it. People going into confined spaces, they've been electrocuted because they couldn't see the electrical discharge in the water. They forgot basic things about sniffing, and when I'm saying sniffing, for those of you who aren't familiar, they have these monitors that detect oxygen levels, lower explosive levels, toxic gases, and things of that nature. And sometimes they bypass it going, oh, it looks clear. I don't smell anything up here because gases, float or go into the air at different times, different heat, temperatures, things like that. There's all kinds of variations. But what happens is they get in, they get exposed, they pass out. Well, coworkers see this, and they jump in to help them without knowing what dropped that individual. Hydrogen sulfide's just like that. And again, it was not being ignorant. Maybe, like everybody else I'm guessing here, maybe they forgot to prepare and plan and communicate with one another. Alan, put on your harness. Bill, you hook up a lifeline to him so if he does go down, we are not jumping in after him. We pull that lifeline and pull Alan's ass out because he still owes me $10 from that game of, I don't know, what's a card game? Rummy or some shit? I don't know. Poker. Let's say poker because you get money for that. But what happened is because they forgot that, the humanity in them kicked in. They said, I'm going to get down there. I'm going to lift him out. That's why we plan and we prepare for things like this. And then we communicate to one another. Alan, you do not go in until I harness your ass up. I get a tripod for those that are not safety or construction or general industry where we do this a lot. We put a tripod. Think of a camera tripod. Except it's got pulleys and it's got other ways to lift me out. So I don't endanger my friends because I jumped in without following procedures to sniff and see if it's safe. I mean, think of it. Hydrogen sulfide is like when your dog farts in your face, but it expands quickly. You're going to smell that sulfur really quick, but then your brain overrides it and it's gone. Next thing you know, you can't breathe and you're dropped. Okay? So let's not label them as being impractical or stupid or just ignorant of the conditions. They were trying to save a life. So then we got the other side of labeling. The ugly political bullshit stuff that's coming out. We saw one that said, a headline said, a Trump supporter was arrested for molesting his children. Okay? Think about that. A Trump supporter was arrested for molesting children. Not Trump's children, his own children. Not other people's children, his own children. And then another says an alleged transgender shot up that school in Minnesota this week. And suddenly entire groups are painted with one brush. Trump supporters are predators, or Biden drones, transgender people are violent in attacking religious schools and sects. Well, here's the problem. It's all assumption. We don't know if the next person who dresses a certain way, worships a certain way, or votes a certain way is going to commit a crime. That has nothing to do with it. It's that mental side of them, and then something pulled that trigger and they went into whatever they went to. But if we keep labeling people by the actions of a few and we say, oh, Trump supporters are doing this and Biden supporters or Kamala Harris supporters are doing this, we're setting everybody up to be a target. Because now I'm going to be afraid every time I see a transgender walking by the school, is that individual going to, unleash hell and fury on a bunch of kids that had nothing to do with them? Because the individual, and one thing, when we do training for active shooter and civilian response active shooters, we don't mention the individual's name, all right? You can research it and Google it all the fuck you want. We don't want to make them martyrs by repeating what they did and saying this and bringing their name out. And people, because hypothetically, and it's just my personal view from what I read, this individual was impressed by acts of violence. Or my understanding from the commentary or material I saw on public media was that they were fascinated by it. How many times have we seen where school violence and things occurred because people thought, wow, violence is great. Let's do this. Violence in action. We're going to be fucking, remembered for eternity because of the acts we took. But look at it this way. Think about yourself. What if I, Alan, got profiled because I wear black shoes and white top? What if someone assumes that your snap bracelet makes you a sexual deviant because it reminds them of bad memories from other childhood where people would go up and snap those bracelets? I mean, this is how ridiculous labeling gets when you follow it to its end, right? That's why I don't like to say people are stupid. We do stupid things. I do them all the time. Think about it. When did you do something stupid? Like, maybe speeding down the road and you pick up your phone to see if your girlfriend texted you back or sent you that titty picture? I mean, I hope she did. That's one way to make your day. But think about the chaos that could have ensued had you been so distracted that you plowed in the back of another vehicle and there was a child in a car seat. Think about that. What kind of tag would you have then? Would they label you a child killer or a distracted driver? It's all in the view of the person that's looking or listening at that content. It's ridiculous. And I don't want people to go on a full rampage attacking transgenders because they feel like, they're going to do something stupid in school. There were quite a few cases documented, videoed, where transgender students were attacking but we didn't see what happened prior to that. Was that transgender or bisexual student attacked, provoked, or bullied? Because that's what, we're looking at, bullying. Whether it's through cyberbullying, whether it's, people being out there, there's those Karens and Kevins everywhere that's going to get you riled up. And that's a form of bullying. They're screaming at you because you don't fit their profile. They're screaming at you because you're not their political or religious sect. It's a stupid fucking world we're going into. Just like I said, Pfizer tells people, and they do a good job, hey, your immune system is shit when you get older because of the environment, because of the health and choices you made throughout their life or didn't make that were positive. So get these shots. And I'm giving you the other side of the coin, right? There's two sides every flip. You make the decision, hey, vitamin C, zinc, echinacea. Hell, I know a lot of people, including myself. I take cayenne pepper to help with blood pressure. Cacao to help with stem cell growth. There's so many natural things, but we make that decision, which may be bad, to go get a COVID shot. Because now we find out that those spike proteins stay in your system and they just fucking multiply. But what if I took zinc, I took amino acids to help my body out prior to the snot rocket season, prior to going out and getting exposed? Excuse me. Got me all choked up. Hell, I'm listening and talking at the same time, and I got tearful. So when we get ready, let's not label. Let's look at what we see. a transgender person did do the shooting in Minnesota, but let's label it as it was. A emotionally damaged or emotionally traumatized person took out their grief, anger, strife, disdain, or whatever other emotion, psychological, on others who are defenseless. But let's look at the other side. Let's look and think too, a transgender person saved a life. They look like a female, but they used their strength and abilities, and you'll have to look it up. There was once a Navy SEAL who came out and had, the surgery and everything. Then something changed and they reverted, but a total badass. So when we're assuming only one species or one political party or one religious sect will do absolute evil, it blocks you from remembering what others in that same religious or political or sexual basis did outstanding stuff, because you're only fed the negative. So you'll treat the outstanding people with the same disdain, discomfort, hate, and just malicious actions because of what a few others did. Look at your environment. See what actually is going on. Make sure that what you're seeing is legitimate and it's not an emotional response, right? If you're going to defend, defend. If you're going to attack as a defense to protect and preserve, not to take out your hate, strife, and disdain on others. So here's my ask as we get ready to close today's show. Let's stop the lazy labels. People are more than the worst thing someone else looks like them, votes like them, or prays like them ever did. If we want to fix anything, safety, health, society, we got to look at the individual actions. Like I said, don't put everybody into the same basket, and stop painting with a gallon bucket assumptions. Now, if you want to grab the books, leave a review, or just laugh at my coffee stains, they're out there waiting for you. But more importantly, don't let labels replace thinking. Don't let headlines replace compassion and common sense. And for God's sakes, don't mix your grapefruit smoothie with your Viagra. I love you. Thank you for listening. Please rate, review, like the show on whatever platform you're listening to. If you have a question or comment on how I can improve things, it is diaryofaBaldman1968@gmail.com. You can go to the Diary of a Bald Man website, find other shows, look at the books, get an idea, go on Amazon, and because the podcast is on there too, review it all. If it helps you, please share it. Please enjoy your Labor Day weekend. Be thankful of the men and women, in construction and variety of industries, yourself included, your spouse, your neighbors, your friends, that made this country great. Don't think about the ones that brought it down. Don't highlight, don't give them any type of pedestal to stand on, anybody of a negative thing. Highlight, promote, and do for the best. Thank you. God bless you. Get the fuck out of here. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you next time.
Alan Wooford has produced this podcast for entertainment purposes. Neither this nor any other podcast he produced constitute legal, medical, marital, sexual, or professional advice. The opinions and views presented by Alan are his own and do not reflect the views or opinions of employers, clients, family, Facebook groupies, promotional sponsors, or baby Jesus. Any health information shared or mentioned as an alternative does not create any patient-physician relationship or other professional relationship between the audience and the presenters. No person listening to any podcast from this rocket surgeon should act or refrain from acting based on the content of a podcast without first seeking appropriate professional advice and or counseling. Nor shall the information be used to substitute for professional advice and counseling. As stated earlier, this show is for entertainment purposes, not how to lead or change your life. Do what is best for you or what your spouse approves of. Alan Wooford and all guests of the show expressly disclaim all liability relating to any actions taken or not taken based on any and all contents of this site.